This is Grammar Points 5-2, Lesson 35 on commas. There are a number of uses of commas. The first use is to separate items in a series of more than two things. If you're only talking about two things, such as in the example here, we bought apples and oranges, then you would just put the word "and" between the two items in the list. You would not put a comma. But when you have more than two things, you have to put a comma after the first item and every other item after that, except for the last item, in which case you put a "and" in front of that. So we bought apples, comma, oranges, comma, and bananas. You also use commas to separate the second item here and the third item are somewhat similar because the comma is used to separate a single word or an introductory phrase in the front of the sentence. So in the first example, it's introductory words such as no or hey, or yes. No, I did not see what happened here. Hey, that guy looks like our new teacher. So when you begin a sentence like this, you do put a comma after that first introductory word, just like you do when you are using a direct address. That means you're talking to someone by their name. In the case of this example, Jake, comma, can you help me lift this table? So I am talking to Jake specifically. I start out this command sentence or this question using Jake's name in the front, but Jake is not the subject of the sentence. I'm still addressing the person in front of me. It's still you as the subject. Jake, can you help me lift this table? Sally, would you come here, please? I'm going to put a comma after that first name. The fourth item here is when you're writing dates. You put a comma after the written day and also after the numerical day. So Saturday, comma, July 13th, comma, 1985. Finally, and this is one of the more difficult ones, you put a comma between a city name and a state or province or country name. As in the examples here, we are from Los Angeles, comma, California, but they are from Seoul, comma, Korea. Korea being a country and California being a state. This one is a little bit more difficult because you're not going to be familiar with a lot of these names that will show up on tests are going to be names of states and cities that are in North America or in England or Australia, and you're not going to be familiar with them. And it is even more confusing when you get a name like Los Angeles, where, as far as you know, Los is the city and Angeles is the state. So you really do, if you want to do well on these kinds of tests, become familiar with different the cities and states of other countries, at least the more common ones. Here are some exercises in using commas in a series. It says, we had chicken, mashed potatoes, and corn for dinner. You have to look for the words and see where the divisions happen. We had chicken, comma, mashed potatoes, comma, and corn for dinner. You don't want to say chicken mashed, comma, potatoes. You have to be familiar with these different names, so knowing what mashed potatoes is. Number 2, there were spoons, forks, and knives on the table. This one's a little bit easier. Spoons, comma, forks, comma, and knives. Number 3, after school, I will read, do homework, and go to bed. So we know that do homework together is an expression, a kind of verb. So read, comma, do homework, comma, and go to bed. And earlier you might remember I said that you put a comma before introductory clauses too. So even though you're not learning this in this unit, you would also put a comma after school, comma, and then you start with the subject. I will read, do homework, and go to bed. Number 4, yellow, blue, brown, green, and blue are my favorite colors. I think this was a typo, but we get yellow, comma, blue, comma, brown, comma, green, comma, and let's say red. are my favorite colors. So you put and red as your last item, comma, and red. Finally, the salad has lettuce, tomatoes, and dressing. Lettuce, comma, tomatoes, comma, and dressing. And here are commas being used for introductory words. Yes, comma, I do want to see the new movie. Hey, comma, why did you do that? And, comma, you should not stand on that chair. Finally, these are commas used in dates and also place names. Number 1, on October 10, 2011, you put a comma after 10 because that's the date, numerical date. On October 10th, 2011, we went to Sydney, comma, Australia. Number 2, the Battle of Wounded Knee occurred on December 29th, comma, 1980 at Wounded Knee Creek, comma, South Dakota. Now, the only way you're going to know in this long list of words, Wounded Knee Creek, South Dakota, the only way you'll know to put in the comma in the right place is if you know that South Dakota is a state. So as I said, you should get fairly familiar with at least the more common states of United States and North America if you want to do well on these kinds of tests. Number 3, the Peace Treaty of 1783 was signed on September 3rd, 1783 in Paris, France. So Paris, France is a fairly common one. You should get that. But some of these more obscure names are going to be pretty tough for you.